So first off, I want to thank you all so much for coming to the presentation today. Thank you, Marielle, for all your assistance, and thank you, and Tyler for being here, and Dr. P and everyone else who just kind of showed up. I really appreciate that. So let's get started. Let's kick this off with an introduction to what we're doing, what Dynamed is here, how it works, and what it does. So the title of the presentation is CDS Hooks and Dynamed Integration and Interoperability. So we'll see first, all right, what is Dynamed? So over the summer, I was fortunate enough to be able to work with the EBSCO team, and I worked with the product management team on a really awesome suite of CDS services called Dynamed. So this CDS service allows the clinician to search for basically any medical topic out there, which is really cool. It's kind of a Google format search. Subjects are returned in a clean and concise format. They're updated on a regular basis. And just a quick, simple search provides clinicians with best practice recommendations, diagnosis and management, and informative images. So Dynamed itself has hundreds of contributing writers and editors who are examining and reviewing all new journal articles as they are published. So it's really, on the nose, really continuously improvement, continuously updated with experts from every single type of medical field. And in recent years, Dynamed has expanded to include 3 other services. Micromedics, which is basically kind of like, it's a bit more complicated than this, but think of it as like, IBM's Watson, Voice Assist, and some drug interaction screening tools that are really helpful. Dynamic Health, which is targeted more towards nurses. So it has nursing procedures, step-by-step instructions on how to do them, CME credits so that nurses can continue to learn and hone their skills. And Dynamed Decisions, which is the newest offering. And Dynamed Decisions really allows for the patients to take part in their care via shared decision making. So we'll take a quick look at how Dynamed looks like. So here is the home screen. When you pull up the site, you can see right here, this is the search bar. So it's very quick. So let's say you want to look up a medical condition. I have an example here of looking up lupus. I had a friend who was just diagnosed with it. So I did use Dynamed to look up some more information about it. You can see right here, number 1 is section by section content. You can see background, evaluation, recommendations. It's very concise, but detailed for exactly what a physician or provider needs. And number 2 over here, you can see that you can easily skip to different sections. So let's say you know about it, you don't need more information in the background, but you do want to know, all right, I have this patient who has it. I'm not quite sure what their management is. You can click down here in the management section and get right to that without having to scroll. Number 3, it's important to see here, these are editors for the topic. So you can see, all right, who wrote this? What are their qualifications? Where are they coming from? You can see here that every single person has a long list of degrees. They know what they're talking about, and they're very current on the condition. So with all of this vast store of continuously updated medical knowledge, we see that providers realize it's pretty invaluable. So how can we help ensure that providers are getting the resources they need without disrupting the workflow? So our project was looking at, can we use this massive amount of information we have in Dynamed, and can we present it to providers in an intuitive, non-invasive way, possibly before the providers even realize that they need this information or these services. So I think it's important to look here kind of when we were looking into what we could use to solve this issue. I came across this quote by the University of Utah, the CMIO, Chief Medical Informatics Officer, Maya Hightower. And she says, the coolest app in the world may not be enough to overcome the barrier of logging out of Epic to use it. Our clinicians will use a clunky app that's integrated into the workflow over a sleek app that's outside of it. So this is important to know. It's a very common barrier to good design. Any extra steps are a disincentive. And so I think I told Tyler this when I first started working with EBSCO and the team. There's a study done a few years ago where they were trying to figure out, okay, how can we get elementary school children to eat more fruit? And they gave one group of elementary school children just sliced apples instead of whole apples. And the fruit consumption of those kids just dramatically increased. So showing that taking away a disincentive or taking away any sort of barrier just makes it natural to promote the positive behavior. So, how do we give providers these sliced apples? So we came across HL7 again. CDS hooks is a new standard that they've recently developed. It's an HL7 published specification for clinical decision support. It allows EHRs to invoke CDSs based on triggering events. These triggering events are called the hooks, and these events occur during the normal provider workflow. So during the course of, for instance, a normal patient encounter, some event will cause a hook to trigger. That hook reaches out to an external CDS service. That CDS service returns information in the form of cards that are displayed in the EHR. So these cards can be either informative cards, they can be suggestion-based cards, or they can be direct smart app link cards. So here are some quick examples of what these hooks actually are. These are tied to specific points in the provider workflow. So these points, such as the first one here, when the patient's chart is opened, the hook will trigger. And that trigger reaches out to the third-party CDS service and displays any response from that service as a card in the EHR. So here's a quick workflow example to kind of get a more visual perspective. You can see here in this yellow box, the provider is ordering a medication for the patient. The act of ordering the medication triggers a CDS hook and invokes a remote service. So here's the CDS service that's normally external to the EHR. The CDS service basically executes its own rules using its own logic and any FHIR data that's provided to it by the EHR. That service, after evaluating the situation, returns a response. And these responses are rendered here, displayed as cards in the EHR. So you can see the first card here is informative. Okay, this medication you're ordering, $200 a month. The patient's paying $30 because of their insurance. Suggestion card. All right, well, here's the medication you're ordering, but here's the first line medication response. Do you want to click this and switch to that? Or a smart app link card. Okay, it looks like you're trying to manage hypertension. Hey, here's an app that we have that can assist in hypertension management. Do you want to launch it right here? No barriers. So good to note, it can actually return multiple cards at once if desired and if programmed to. So the provider wants, it can give you all this information to make sure you never go wrong. But so it's a really cool feature, a lot of possibility there. That being said, before jumping all into it and committing our time and engineering team to it, we wanted to do a quick market analysis, looking at the landscape and determine, is this worth investing the time and resources into adding this feature? We also took a look into what our competitors were up to. So were they building out similar features into their systems? And where are we on that adoption curve? So this quick chart shows you basically the compound annual growth rate projections for healthcare interoperability solutions. So you can see that CDS hooks by itself is not going to be the full volume of this market. It's not easy to just take a feature like that and be able to analyze, well, where do we think this feature is going to contribute? But you can see more of a broad picture overall. The global healthcare interoperability solutions market is just basically projected to explode by 2024. There's a lot of demand for this. CDS hooks and features like it are really kind of an aspect of the shift to the value-based care model. So CDS hooks basically allows for a best of breed third-party integration directly into the EHR. And it's both a response to and a look forward into the future as what we see these value-based care models to be like, and what we see the providers to be needing in their very recent future in their workflow. So the market is growing at a really staggering pace. And also Dynamed's main competitors are also working on CDS hook enabled applications. I think the biggest competitor in the space is a CDS company called UpToDate. They're also working on an integration type program through it's a system called Pathways. And that basically is looking at value-based care episodes and integrating CDS hooks into those episodes. So since this is going to be something of a best of breed type integration, we want to be the best of breed. We want to get there first and we want to do it better. So looking at the market, all right, that's great. There's demand for this. This is going to grow. This could be a really good opportunity, but let's look at the technology. Like, are we capable with what we have and what our capacities are with integrating this standard into our system? So CDS hooks works with Smart on Fire applications, kind of like those that you would find, for example, in the Epic App Orchard. Currently, the newest system we have, Dynamed Decisions, is configured as a Smart on Fire app, but the rest of the suite of Dynamed products is soon to follow. So great, got that first one down. So just as an overview, again, CDS hooks connects EHRs to CDS services like Dynamed. All of the data exchanged between them is exchanged as JSON structures. Data is transmitted over through secure channels, HTTPS secured, and the communication with the external service, happens in 3 phases. So we'll call those phases the discovery phase, the actually calling and reaching out to the service phase, and the service response phase. So we'll take a quick look at the discovery phase here. So the CDS service developers like Dynamed will provide endpoints that allows the CDS hooks enabled EHR to discover that service. So these endpoints include a description of the service, if there's any data that service needs to pre-fetch, and when that service is going to be called. So when that hook activates, like where does that service play in? And the CDS service responds with a list of services that it offers. So this JSON structure right here shows basically what that looks like when the service responds. So the EHR has reached out to the external service, and you can see that it's responded with, here's my list of services that I do. I have 2 services. I activate one on the patient view hook. And activating the patient view hook, this service provides a patient greeter, it says welcome patient. Number 2 is that this same service also activates on the order select hook, and it echoes an order. So if a physician types in a medication order, it echoes it back to you. So these 2 services by themselves don't seem terribly useful, but they make really good examples of where you can activate, and the fact that the same service is able to activate at different points and offer different functionalities and capabilities. So after the discovery, after the EHR reaches out to that CDS service and there's a response, here's what I do, it comes to the point where the CDS service is actually called. So that CDS client, the EHR, posts a JSON document to the service to call it. The CDS service, such as Dynamed, requires FHIR resources to compute this request. So these resources can either be obtained in one of 2 ways. So the first way would be passing specified prefetched data from the EHR, or the EHR provides a secure bearer token to the CDS service with the information that it needs to compute and solve the problem. So this showing right here is getting into, you can see that the EHR has passed through and provided a FHIR access token to the CDS service. So this might contain some information that the service needs to complete the request coming from the EHR. And then the service will respond. So if the response is successful, it will send over a 200 HTTP message, which is a generic message basically saying success or okay, and we'll send out a JSON cards array. These cards contain the decision support information that pops up on the provider's screen at specified points. So you can see right here that this example has returned 2 cards to the EHR. This first card right here displays links to Google, GitHub, and connects to a smart app. The second card just displays a warning. So it's an informational card. So with the same trigger, 2 cards have been returned. So looking at how it works and what our capacities are, everything works out, we can do this, we can fit in. So where are the EHRs in this system? You know, what's the current state of EHR adoption, and how are they integrating CDS hooks? So are they supporting the standard? So we were fortunate enough to be able to speak with a representative from Epic. And if you all have ever worked with Epic, they're very protective. So I don't have any screenshots or any super detailed information I can show to you, but I can share that they are supporting CDS hooks. And they've actually been working with the CDS hooks project basically since the beginning. Epic has a similar pseudo hook system that they've already set up called best practice advisories. And these both proceeded and operated in conjunction with hooks development. And as the actual standard is being developed and released, Epic is supporting more and more of the defined hooks. So these hooks, like I said, are defined to operate in specific points of the workflow. So Epic supports at the order sign point, at the order select point, and at the patient viewpoint. One important hook they do not currently support is encounter start. So when the provider starts an encounter with the patient, you can have hooks trigger off of that. Epic is still working on that, and hopefully we can see in the near future full support for all of these predefined hooks. What's really cool is that they support user-specific profiles and department-specific configurations. So what this means is that if you are a physician and you want to use a certain array of smart apps, or you want certain information sent to you, and maybe another clinician in the office doesn't, you could have it configured for specific users. And the same for departments. So, you know, if maybe the oncology department wants, okay, we want these apps integrated, we want these hooks integrated, but maybe the cardiology department doesn't need, you know, this certain cancer screening tool, you can configure it so that it's set up department by department as well. So there's just so much flexibility and so much usability here. And one thing Epic has done that's really cool is it's addressed one of our major concerns, which is if providers have these notifications popping up all the time, is that just going to contribute to the alert fatigue? So Epic has integrated the notifications into their system in a very streamlined format. A lot of the information cards kind of come off as little bars to the side that you can just kind of pull down. They don't pop up in a sense that they don't interfere with what you're trying to do. You don't have to acknowledge them or click off of them in many, many situations. And you can still set it so that warnings and alerts, like actual issues, might pop up, but if it's just information or a suggestion, you could have it off to the side in a non-intrusive format, which is really cool. So Epic is not the only EHR working on this. Many major EHR vendors, Cerner's another one that I'm aware of, is also working on CDS hooks integration into their system. And we do hope to set up a meeting with them soon and kind of see where they're at in this process. So I'm going to show you some quick use cases. And I do want to give you a warning. These are very, very simple. This is not what the final product is going to look like. These are more just to show how this works and where we can see a provider use this in their workday. So here is a mock EHR, very simple. Use case 1 would be integrating the Dynamed Decisions platform that I mentioned earlier. So that platform is a lot of screening tools that allow the patient to have some more insight and say in their care. So we have that set up as a third party, a smart enabled app. So it can be accessed through the Epic App Orchard. So what this does here is that we can use possibly in Epic, the patient view hook, because they don't currently support encounter start. So we can have the EHR configured to pull from the key problems line. And you can see that this patient, Jane Doe, oh, she's overdue for breast cancer screening. Her last mammogram was April 4th. So we can have this be the trigger when the patient view is opened. And behind the scenes, you see the provider starting the patient encounter. That line triggers a CDS hook to Dynamed services. Dynamed decisions pulls from that key problems row, says, oh, it looks like the patient's overdue for screening. I have a tool that can help with that. And it returns a card that links breast cancer screening directly into the EHR. So a provider can go ahead and, oh, hey, look, Jane, it looks like, do you want to do a screening? Jane says, sure, let's do it. All right, without leaving the EHR, without any intrusion, without the provider sitting there and having to remember and take a note and read this, it's right there in front of them. And so they can go ahead and open up and do a screening right then and there without any sort of interruption in the workflow and without having to singularly remember that, oh yeah, Jane's due for a screening. Let's not forget to ask her that. It's right there in front of her. So another use case that we thought of would be using Dynamed and Dynamic Health, which again, Dynamed's targeted towards physicians, Dynamic Health is targeted towards nurses in a medical education scenario. So either for a new provider, a med student, or maybe someone who just wants to brush up on certain topics, because you can target it topic by topic. We're looking again at Jane Doe. Okay, high blood pressure, follow-up, blood pressure elevated a month ago. Maybe for a student who's still learning and like, oh, what should her blood pressure be at? I don't remember. Here you go. Here's her target blood pressure. And if you want to learn more, you can go right ahead and open up Dynamed and learn more information about high blood pressure, how to manage it, what should someone's blood pressure be at, any more information you might need. So again, we're just going to do a quick behind the scenes. Maybe patient view comes up, triggers that hook. Dynamed notices it's being sent data and information from the EHR. Oh, high blood pressures on the patient. It provides an informative recommendation with a direct link for more information and returns that card that we just saw with more information and a recommendation of what the blood pressure is supposed to be like. So that's from the physician's perspective. And like I said, we also have a tool, Dynamic Health, that works with nurses. So if that's the medical student, here's the nursing student trying to figure out blood pressure. Oh, I see that Jane has high blood pressure. Oh, shoot, I forgot. I need to figure out how to take a measurement. Right here shows step-by-step how to take a measurement without interrupting the workflow at all. You can just open it up. It's right there, but the EHR is still there too. So it's really cool. So a new nurse can learn right in on the field, doesn't have to scramble and find a supervisor necessarily, doesn't have to like Google something. It's right there in front of her or him. So instead of being merely informative, this card guides the student to taking a blood pressure measurement without leaving the EHR. So those are two simple use cases. There's, likely 1,000 other scenarios we could go through, but for the sake of time, I'm thinking to show there's two very prevalent ones. So since the time of the internship is not over yet, we still have some future work to do, which is actually really exciting. So I showed you those two examples. We are currently setting up meetings to either start at the end of this week or the beginning of next week with actual medical providers and asking them, hey, what works for you guys and what doesn't? Maybe there are some insights they have, some use cases that they see every day. Oh, wow, I would really like to be able to X, Y, Z. And we might not have thought of that. So we want provider feedback. Where can this work for you? What format would you like to see it in? What struggles are you seeing? How can we integrate this into the EHR to A, reduce the amount of time that you're spending in the EHR, B, give you more valuable time with the patient, and C, send you information that you actually need. What works, what gets in the way. So we're doing that to kind of refine the recommendation and the product with direct provider feedback. We want to really just glean insights into further use cases that we might not have thought of. And one more thing to note is that CDS hooks is really the current launch or the most recent specification has a feedback feature. So we can internally see where a provider is clicking, yes, I want to learn more. Where are they opening the app? And where are they either ignoring, overriding, or being frustrated because the box gets in the way. So that allows us to see what's working, what doesn't, and have continuous improvement to refine this over time and really just to provide the best for what the patients and the providers and we all need to make this feature a seamless integration. So in conclusion, just saying Dynamed really has a vast array of medical knowledge that can be used by the entire healthcare team. And we want to work with, all right, how can we use this knowledge to get it to you in front of you without you even realizing that you need it yet? Because you will, but you don't want to have to interrupt your workflow, interrupt your day to go search for it. We want to give it to you right then and there. So CDS Hooks is an answer to that. It provides Dynamed services at the point of care. It's supported by major EHR providers. There's a massive growing market for services like CDS Hooks, and it's becoming quickly integrated by competitors. So if we were to adopt this standard, it will remove barriers between Dynamed and the EHR, will be a benefit to EBSCO and Dynamed users both, while allowing for further integration because providers can't live without this information. All right, references, and thank you all so very much. And does anyone have any questions?